I would like to sincerely apologize if I jinxed your favorite, because I think I absolutely did. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Ice Talk with Hannah, and today we are recapping the wild ride that was Skate America. Honestly, I couldn't have been more off the mark with most of my predictions, and you know, that's the fun about skating, and honestly, I kind of like it better when things don't go as I predict, because it just makes things so much more exciting and interesting. But man, oh man, there are so many surprises jam-packed in this competition. We're going to dive into it. I'm going to talk mostly about, the top three, maybe a little bit regarding the top six in some disciplines as per usual. I'll probably talk the most about women because that's the one I'm most into, and that's the one that I have a lot of thoughts, and I want to talk about it. I'm also at the end of this going to tack on my preview of Skate Canada. I'm not going to predict anything out of fear of jinxing skaters again, like I did last week. Again, I'm so sorry, but it was an exciting event. It was a great start to the season, and I'm really looking forward to how the rest is going to shape up. So let's dive right in. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and leave your comments down below on what you thought of Skate America, as well as your predictions on Skate Canada. You can also subscribe to my channel if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, don't forget to download the episode and follow me on socials. I am at HannahSkates96 on Twitter and, X, and I am at Looking Nerdy on Instagram if you want to see cosplay. That's what that Instagram is. I'll maybe make an Instagram for this account if you want me to, but we'll see. Anyway, let's go. All right. The women's event was quite the event, for good reasons and not so great reasons. I first want to talk about the US women. This was not our greatest showing, unfortunately, and really, I hope did not set the tone for what this season is going to be. I was getting myself really excited before this competition and thinking we could have like 3 to 4 US women in the Grand Prix final. And while I think that's still possible because we have a lot of names that have yet to compete that can definitely get into that Grand Prix final, I felt like this event was like our biggest shot at some really good results, because while we have a lot of other great skaters to come, this felt the least stacked compared to most of the other events. So we, right off the bat, have 2 that are completely out of the running, and Isabeau, while she's still definitely in the running for the Grand Prix final, she has to be lights out at her next event, because a win will guarantee it, a second will be on the cusp. So first, let's talk about Elise Lynn Gracie. Now, I had high hopes for her, but I was still definitely expecting some mistakes, but I wasn't expecting mistakes to the degree that she had. I think she is such a capable skater, and she has a great future ahead of her. I do fear a couple of things. Number one is that she is coached by Tammy Gamble. And Tammy Gamble's skaters, just if you look at the facts, have a history of being head cases and having moments of absolute brilliance like she did at Nebelhorn, and then the next competition they're like a different skater. And that's what happened to Elise here. I was very hopeful that she would kind of break free from that like common denominator with Tammy Gamble skaters, but this event was definitely tough for her. She had moments of greatness. Her triple in the free skate was chef's kiss. The second half of her free skate was beautiful. She just seemed to be very scared. I do want to say this was her first Grand Prix event ever, and US figure skating, as they always do, was putting a lot of pressure on her. Even if they weren't majorly promoting her or anything like that, they very quickly gave her a second spot as quickly as they could. She knew heading into this that US figure skating was like, hey, skate the way you did at Nebelhorn and get to that Grand Prix final, and I think that just kind of showed. I do want to see her work on not giving up on the PCS when she has a rough skate, because I felt like this event, she looked like she didn't want to be there after she made like one mistake, and she seemed to kind of be giving up on the performance. She still has a lot of room for growth performance-wise, but I did feel like she took a step back here with those mistakes, and this is something that we learned very early on. I never got to this level, and I still know this, is when you make a mistake on the technical side, you want to, like, in your brain, you want to give up on the performance and on your transitions and everything because you're just kind of giving up, but you are taught, it is ingrained in our heads to not do that, because even though you've messed up the technical score, you can still have a good component score if you try your best. And when you just stop performing, you start like looking like you don't want to be there, you give up on those transitions, your performance score is going to suffer as well, and you're going to dig yourself an even bigger hole. I think she still has a long ways to go with learning about that. I do fear that at the level she's at, she should already know that, but she's also only 17 years old, so she has a lot of room for growth. She has a long way to go. I'm not worried about her, but this was definitely a disappointing skate for her. We'll see. She's slated to compete at Skate Canada here, which will be starting in a couple of days. We'll see if she can, light a fire under her butt and try and prove something to the audience that she is capable of it, but her chances of a Grand Prix final are all but gone. Even if she were to win Skate Canada, which she's up against the reigning world three-time world champion, it's unlikely, and even then, a first and a sixth is still going to be very difficult to make to the Grand Prix final. Brady Tennell. Okay, so Brady, I'm excited for. I'm very happy that she seems to find a lot of joy in skating again, and that she seems to have found a little bit of that consistency that she used to have. Now, there's something that was painfully obvious to me here at this event. It has been a while since I've fully seen her compete, since she seems to be kind of back, and I was screaming bend your knees the entire time she was skating in her free skate. Brady's skating continues to be lacking fundamentally in those soft knees and the speed that's just coming naturally to these other skaters, and it is frustrating. I want to cheer for her. I really do. I truly want to cheer for her. I love her story. I love that she's making a comeback. I mean, this girl was on top of things 6 years ago, right? But this competition proved to me just how much her consistency carried her through so much of her career early on. Of course, in the free skate, she did pop that Lutz. If she hadn't have done that, she would have won this entire event, which is absolutely insane. The short program was a little bit frustrating. As someone who still is going to cheer for the US skaters more than anyone else just because I'm biased, I still found myself frustrated in the 1 point difference between her component scores and Wakaba Higuchi's component scores, with Brady being a point higher. It's just so obvious that Wakaba should be higher. Brady has made some improvements, but, she doesn't bend her knees very much, and that requires her chest to be pitched forward, her butt to be sticking out, and this is all stuff that we're taught so early on not to do. The goal is to have those soft knees, to have speed that just generates easily. That's a sign of good skating skills. That's a sign of everything coming together. Her packaging's a lot better. I did enjoy her free skate, even though she's using some war horses, whatever. Her free skate dress was gorgeous. She still is leaving me feeling empty. And I really want to cheer for her, and I did cheer for her here, but I felt like fifth was still kind of the right spot for her based off of how everyone else competed here. I hope she can continue to move forward, and I hope she can continue to work on those skating skills, because if she were to start to skate with more bent knees, softer hand movements, I think she would be much more visually appealing and would be enjoyable to watch. Fourth place was Nina Pinzarone. Now, Nina was kind of in the same boat as Brady Tennell for me, but actually differently than Brady Tennell here at this competition. I found myself actually very much more enjoying her programs this year compared to last year. She is still young, she still has room for growth, but I feel like this year her programs are better vehicles for her. She seems to be much more into it. Her skating skills have gotten a lot better. She generates speed very quickly, and she moves along the ice a lot smoother than she did last year. I feel like her dresses are better. Just everything about her packaging this year is more polished, and I enjoyed watching her skate. I do just think that because she got absolutely murdered with the under rotations in the short program, even though her free skate, she was one of 2 skaters to break 130, she still ended up 4th overall, and I do think that based off of the fact that she's up against some pretty big skaters at her next event, I don't know if she'll be able to make the Grand Prix final, because for her as well, she will have to win the next one. She has no chance if she does not win her next event, and I just don't know if that's possible, because she still has room for growth, and the judges still seem to be judging her with the mindset that there is that room for growth. But this was still a very good starting out competition for her. She just got hit with a lot of under rotations, like many of the skaters did. Speaking of getting hit with under rotations, Isabeau Levino. Now, Isabeau ended up with the bronze medal here, which does mean that, there's a little bit of nerves with the next event. She really needs to show up to her next event, and she's up against Luna Hendricks. She's up against, I don't know if there was anyone else that was a huge competitioner, but we'll look at it when it gets time for that competition. But she's gonna have to win. She has to win to guarantee it, and she has to come in second to hope for it. She still skated very well here. I'm not super worried about her. I would prefer that she makes some mistakes here, because last year it seemed like the middle of her season got really messy. She struggled at the Grand Prix final. She struggled at nationals. She had some not great skates there. So I would like to see her kind of start out a little bit more messy than, the perfectly polished version that we kind of got used to. And hope that means that she'll just continue to get better and better. The goal this season for her should just be to get higher scores each time she competes. She'll be totally okay. I do like her short program, the Audrey Hepburn. I like that she's going a little bit in a different route than what she normally does with the second half and made it more fun. Her free skate's very beautiful. It's very similar to what she's always done, but you can't go wrong with Lieberstrom. That's such a great piece of music, and her dress is gorgeous. So I am a fan of her programs this year. I will always cheer for her. Her jump technique is still scary, but everything else in between is gorgeous. And you know what? I give her props for being able to land these jumps even with such iffy technique with the hitched chest and the pre-rotation. The fact that she's still able to land these jumps well is quite literally incredible. So good for her. Hopefully she's also worked out her spins this year. It seems that she has. So I think third is not anything to be worried about. I think she's going to be just okay. Those under rotations are why she didn't win. That or the Lutz. It's not like both together caused her to not win. It was if she hadn't gotten the under rotations that she got, she would have won. And then if she hadn't have fallen out of that Lutz halfway through and fallen, she would have won. So it was very close. She was only 2 points behind gold. I'm excited for her in the future. I think these programs are a good vehicle for her. I think she's going to be okay. Coming in at second was probably the second biggest surprise for me was Rinka Watanabe. Now, if you watched my preview, I didn't even put her in the top 5. She's been struggling in her Senior B events this year, but she took out the triple axel at this event, which I think was the key to her success. I think she was just letting that triple axel get to her. She was not doing well with it, and she changed to just a double axel at the beginning, got her feet underneath her, and she's skated very, very well. I do like both of her programs. I also like her as a skater just in general. She has all the Japanese, just beautiful skating skills. These are the skaters that should be getting the high component scores as per usual. Something about the Japanese school, there's something that they do there to make sure that these skaters have soft knees, can generate speed quickly, can connect to their music, slide through their transitions well, and Rinka is just like that. Rinka is a beautiful skater. She's made a lot of improvements on the performance aspect of things too. She used to be a bit more of a technician with good skating skills but not a lot of performance. She's definitely changed that. I enjoyed both of her programs. This was a solid silver medal that I think was very deserving. And finally, gold. This one is close to my heart. I am very, very happy for her. Wakaba Higuchi, who's been around for so long, and I've been a fan of hers for that entire time. I have gained a newfound love for her as well recently, just as I've seen just how beautiful of a skater she is. This is her first Grand Prix win for someone who's been around for so long. She just won her first Grand Prix, and just to see the joy in her face and the excitement, the surprise, I was on the fence on whether or not she was even going to be on the podium here, and she just did so beautifully. I'm also going to say this, her free skate so far is my favorite program of all the skaters. I love running up that hill. I've got a soft spot for that song, but also just the way the music built and built and built until it got to the point where she was skating to running up that hill. It was beautiful. It almost brought me to tears. I like her short program as well. I'm a little bit over the Dune soundtrack already. There's so much good soundtrack out there. Why do we all have to be on the same thing? I know Dune is new. I know, this is the first season since the movie came out and all that stuff, but I think her Dune program is my favorite so far. So I'm very, very happy for her. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do next competition as well. Would love to see her at the Grand Prix final. Truly, I would be very, very happy to see her there. If we're not going to have 4 U.S. women, I wouldn't mind if she's one of the ones that is there instead of a 4th U.S. woman. So loved her programs, loved just everything about her. I really, really enjoyed it. Overall, this event was definitely not what I expected. I am still disappointed in the U.S. women, and not disappointed in them, just disappointed in how this competition ended up. It was very close. 4 points separated 1st through 5th. This was extremely close, and it was a little bit messy too. We didn't have anyone break 200. We only had 2 break 130, and it was just barely. So it was a messy competition. The calls were very strict as well. Skate Canada will probably not have that issue. So it was a big, exciting event. Lots of highs, lots of lows. Yuna Aoki, I'm just gonna say, if she can get those jumps together, I will be all in on her. I love her. So good event. a little bit disappointing, a lot of exciting moments, but overall a very, very solid event. Moving on, I'm going to talk about pairs next. Now, pairs was the only event where I was personally very surprised by the result in a good way. All the other surprises were not really great surprises to me. Here we had 2 US teams on the podium, with Alyssa Efimova and Misha Mitrofanov in third, and Ellie Kim and Danny O'Shea in second. And then, of course, my faves, Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara from Japan on the top step with 2 amazing programs. The pairs event, surprisingly, was like the highlight for me. I don't think I even paid attention that much to pairs last year, if I'm being really honest. I feel like I didn't watch the pairs event for, like, anything. I don't even remember how the Grand Prix final went for pairs, honestly. Pairs is usually the discipline that I pay the least amount of attention to, and it's also just the one where, I don't know, like I never find interest in who's actually on top, but this was a really great event. I first just want to say the Russians pretending to not be Russian being off the podium, you know what? Serves them right. They shouldn't be here. Does that mean I'm gonna say it again. This is an anti-Russia account. If you are for Russia, you shouldn't be watching me, okay? So the Hungarians, Maria Pavlova and Alexei Svianchenko, and then the Georgians, Anastasia Metelkina and Luka Berulova, they came in 4th and 5th respectively. I'm just gonna say this, the Hungarians looked very, very messy in the free skate, like even without the mistakes they made, just like the in-between stuff looked unprepared, they were wobbly and they were tripping over their feet, it just didn't look good. The Georgians, their free skate is boring as heck, and also I don't like the whole veil over her head at the end. I feel like that's Eteri because she's her coach, their coach apparently, and I don't like that at all either. Eteri should not be allowed at any of these events. Just saying, go read what Yevgenia Medvedeva literally just said about her on Twitter. It's kind of crazy. I felt like the veil over the head ending for the Georgians was a specific call out to Kamila Valieva's free skate that she came out with right after like the whole Olympic situation with her, where they were pretty much making out, you know, that she was just a complete victim. And while I do think Camila herself is a victim of the adults around her, they made it out to be that she was a victim of like US media and that she shouldn't have been accused of doping because it was just her grandfather, blah, blah, blah. She ended the program by putting a veil over her head. So did Anastasia Metelkina with the same coach. I don't know. There's just something going on there I'm not a big fan of. So glad they weren't on the podium. Truly. Third place, Alyssa Efimova, Misha Mitrofanov. Obviously, very Russian names, but Misha was born and raised in the United States. Alyssa was born in Finland. She lists her hometown as Oberstdorf, Germany, and they both live and train in Boston. So they're not Russians pretending not to be Russian. I'm really, really happy with them. Their free skate was gorgeous. They haven't really been on my radar much, but I really enjoyed watching them. They seem very refined, much more than I was expecting. And I know that they both had different partners in their fairly new partnership, but they seem to be gelling really well. They made little to no mistakes here too. She doubled a triple in the side-by-sides, and I think that's about it. So good for them. They still have room for growth, but I really enjoyed watching them. Ellie Kim and Danny O'Shea stayed on their feet the entire time. This is such good improvement. Now, I want to just point out too that they were able to break 70 in the short, 130 in the free, and 200 overall, and she did not get any positive grade of execution on those throws. All of them were still negative. She stayed on her feet, which is a big deal. So there's still lots of room for improvement. I could see these two becoming like stars in this sport, and I'm really, really happy about that. Everything about them is gorgeous. I said it in my preview, it's just the throws that's been their issue, and I think they had a few messy side-by-sides, not like perfect, but not horrible. They overall were just very solid, and being very solid and breaking 200 is really good. I'm very excited about them. I would be interested to see, can they make it to the Grand Prix final now? Absolutely. You know, they really just need to come in second or third at their next event, and they're in that final. Should I not say that because I'm afraid of jinxing? We'll see. I really like both of their programs as well. They're really solid, and I have a soft spot for them. I'm very, very happy for them here. Second place is beyond what I was expecting for them, and they killed it, like truly. I don't really have much else to say other than I'm excited to see what'll happen when she has throws that she lands with flow and positive GOE, because we're going to be seeing them hit similar points to what the Japanese got here, which is incredible. So good for them. I'm very happy about them. First place, though, reserved for my favorites. Yes, these are my all-time favorites pairs right now. I love both of their programs. I love that their free skate is a little bit different than the style that they usually do. I love that they show that they're just very versatile, and that is a sign of a good skater. If you have musicality in any different type of music style, that is a good performer. That is a good skater. They're just so smooth. Their chemistry is amazing. I can't even put into words how good of skaters they are. Again, it's just like this Japanese school of beautiful skating skills, soft knees, fast skating, good transitions that aren't too busy, clean transitions that aren't just 3 turns. Like, it's just amazing, and I love and adore them. This was such a great start to their season. I'm very much looking forward to seeing them continue on at the Grand Prix final, well, at their next Grand Prix, the Grand Prix final, and onwards. I think that I do prefer them over the Canadians, the reigning world champions. I'll see how I feel about them after this next week because they will be competing at Skate Canada, of course. But I'm really loving their programs. I'm jiving well with them this year. I'm really, really excited to see where they go from here. Overall, pairs was by far the most happy event for me. I felt like I was on cloud 9 when this event ended, which unfortunately can't be said over the 2 that I haven't talked about, but this was the highlight of the event for me. Like, truly, great job to all the teams. We saw some really great skating, and it was just fun all around. Moving on to men. Okay, so men was actually very close to what I predicted, just completely different than how I expected it to go down. So first, I want to just mention Denis Vasilyev's. You need to get your quad down, sir. I mean, as much as I think he could become close to Jason Brown, and I know people desperately want him to become like another Jason Brown that just gets these really high component scores without the quads, Denis lacks some skating skills and some performance that Jason just naturally has. I think Denis is by far one of the best performers in this event and one of the best skating skills-wise, and was he underscored in PCS? Absolutely. However, I think there's still something lacking with him that Jason has. So Denis needs to get that quad because Denis is never going to see podiums if he doesn't land the quads because he's not quite Jason Brown level. Could he get there? Maybe. I don't know at this point. He's been around for long enough that I would expect him to have that similar quality that Jason has if he naturally had it, but he doesn't. So I love Denis, and I'm not trying to be mean. I just think that he's a little bit overhyped by a lot of people. I do think he is still one of the better performers and skaters of this event, and that he was underscored in PCS. However, looking at the top 4, 5th was the best he could get, because I forgot when I was talking about my preview about Nika Agadze, and that's because, again, he's a Russian pretending not to be Russian, coached by a Terry. I don't really want to give these skaters that much time because they should not be here, okay? He is extremely boring. His free skate was a snooze fest. I almost fell asleep. Like, truly, I was very tired that day that I watched it, but I almost fell asleep. And the fact that he came in 4th instead of 3rd after the short, I'll take it. Kao Miura. Now, Kao holds a special place in my heart because he skated to Attack on Titan last year. You're going to hear me say this a lot. We need more anime music and skating, okay? People do not understand the minefield of stunning music that animes have as OSTs. And Kao went there last year with Attack on Titan. Would I have been so happy if he had just kept that trend going and skated to Demon Slayer this year? Obviously, yes, but I still love his programs. He needs to work a little bit on the performance side of things. He has, and it's getting a lot better, but he's very fast, just like every other Japanese, just like the fundamental basics are there. The jumps are amazing. He just needs to work on that performance. Also, he was a surprising finish for me because honestly, as soon as I posted my preview and practice I started, I was seeing that he seemed to be nursing some kind of injury and he was not having a great practice session like ever. So to see him go out there and just skate 2 pretty much clean programs. I mean, his short program, he almost broke 100. His free skate was fairly clean. It was really great to see him just solidly put out such a great start to his season here. And any other competition, this would have been first place for him, right? But the 2 that are above him, one is Ilya Malinin, who is just like miles technically higher than everyone else. And second, this was the biggest surprise of the entire event for me, Kevin Amos. Now, I know in my preview, I talked a little bit about my fear of him even competing here, and I still stand by what I said. Like, I still see the mental problems that was going on and wondered, it was right to wonder if this was the right move for him. But now I can say it was, because I do think that his skating here will give him confidence, heading into the rest of the season and make him a competitor again. Do I think that we're going to see this Kevin show up at every event? No. Kevin is still known for being very, inconsistent, and I don't think that we're going to get this level of Kevin at every event this season. I would love to see it because this version of Kevin is the best version of Kevin and the most exciting skater to watch here. I love how his short program is fun, like we're going to the club, and then his free skate is balletic and beautiful and holds a lot of cool acrobatic moves in both. Like, he did a full-on, aerial. That's really hard. I can't even do that off the ice. Don't ask me to do that with my skates on, okay? I will die. But Kevin just proved how amazing of a skater he is by putting together these two clean programs. I loved every second of him on the ice. I also loved seeing his coaches mascara running everywhere because she was bawling. I think it is important to have coaches that truly support you in that way, that can feel so many emotions when you have clean skates. You can tell she's been there with him for a lot of crap and a lot of stuff that's been going on with his life. He made some comments in some interviews about where he was mentally at the beginning of this year, and it was scary. He made some very serious comments about just mental health in general, and to see him go from that low of low and come here and just skate two clean programs, win the free skate ahead of Ilya, which is usually where Ilya kind of gains his lead, was just beautiful. Absolutely the highlight of the event for me. I love Kevin, and he's the full package. He rightfully won in PCS as well, so I really, really am happy for him. I still am going to be cautiously optimistic headed into the rest of the season. I really hope that this is a turning point for him where he can at least, if he does make one mistake at an event, he can keep going and not give up like he tends to do at these other events that we've seen. So very, very happy for him. Hopeful for the future for him. I think this was a good choice for him to go now that I can see it in hindsight. A silver medal, he's setting himself up well for the Grand Prix final if he can show up at his next Grand Prix and do what he did here. So great job, Kevin. Happy to see him back because a healthy and clean Kevin, there's not much greater joy in watching men's figure skating because Kevin is the full package. He is. He has the quads, he has the skating skills, he has the spins, he has the performance. He's just got everything, and you don't see that very often. Now, coming in at first, not a surprise, Ilya Malinin, the reigning world champion. What is a surprise, he only won by 8 points, and he didn't even win the free skate. So after the short program, when he was virtually tied with Kao Miura, I was saying, it's okay, because where Ilya gets his big scores is the free skate, because the short program doesn't have as much of an opportunity for your technical score to take you super high. The free skate is where it's okay, 130 is my tech score. I max out on PCS at 100, which means I'm 30 points higher than the absolute maximum best skater in the world could get. And I do want to mention, I've seen a lot of people talk badly about Ilya. Now, I want to make something very clear. It is okay to say that he is making improvements and still call out that he was overscored in PCS here. He was, I think, 8 points higher than Dennis in PCS, which I've already said, I think Dennis is a little bit overhyped by the fandom, but I still think Dennis should be getting higher PCS than Ilya. Ilya still has a lot of work to do. However, he's definitely making improvements, and you can say he's made improvements and still say he's overscored in PCS. Those two can live in harmony. I would say I'm in that boat. I think Ilya has made a lot of improvements this year. I think his short program is his best vehicle so far. I really enjoy it. I think the whole contemporary pop style is so good for him. He is a Gen Z. He is a teenage boy. Give him music that he connects to. He always skates to these classical, balletic, or movie soundtrack pieces that he clearly has no connection to whatsoever. And he just skates from jump to jump and racks up the points that way, and the judges are, ooh, ah, so I'm going to give you high PCS. That's how it works, right? He has two programs this year. The free skate I don't like quite as much as the short program, but it genuinely feels like he cares, he connects, and he actually is showing improvement. Now, he still is overscored in PCS, but I want people to realize that being overscored in PCS when his technical scores are just so freaking high is not going to affect anything, because that discrepancy between the ceiling, the highest you can get in PCS compared to technical score, is so far wide. It's always going to favor the skaters that can go out and do the big jumps. He has the quad axel. He didn't do it here. And that's one of the reasons why his gap was not nearly as big. He has, like, he's probably going to attempt quads this season or something along those lines and attempt quints next season. Like, there's no way, like, even if they took his component scores down 10 points like they should, it's 10 points. That's not going to affect anything. Now, obviously, it would have affected something here. If his PCS was 10 points lower, he would have come in second. People were more focused on Dennis because Kevin was higher in PCS. Dennis was lower. And Dennis was 40 points behind Ilya. That 10 points doesn't make a difference, okay? And you just have to understand in this sport, the technical side is always going to be more important. That's how it's always been, okay? If you want that difference, it's not Ilya's fault. Ilya is talented at jumping, and because those are worth more points than PCS, he's going to be more successful than a skater that can't do the jumps but is really talented at the performance, okay? It's all picking and choosing. There are some people who watch skating and really enjoy the technical side of things. That is okay. If we want to see a change, IJS needs to be abolished and something completely new and less subjective needs to come. But is that ever going to happen? I don't think so. This is a sport that is partially subjective. The performance and the composition is all a matter of opinion, right? I would love to see the component scores change back to just like skating skills, transition, and performance, because performance at least is a little bit more objective. Like a skater that skates completely emotionless should get lower than a skater that is making faces and connecting with their music, right? But that's not all there is to it. Skating has always been a mixture of both, but technical has always been a higher base value, right? So while I agree that he is overscored, I think we all need to remember, first of all, it's not his fault. He's just the skater, right? It's the judging. It's the ISU and how they set up the judging, and the judges just not being actually like objective with their things, even though they have lists of bullet points and they're all highly trained on what's supposed to, give a +5 compared to what's supposed to give a -5. It's much deeper than just complaining about Ilya getting overscored. And no matter how much we complain, nothing's gonna change. We have to actually do something important. And I don't know what that is, okay? But I don't think that Ilya winning things and getting higher component scores than other skaters that can't land a quad, that are better skaters than him, I don't think that's the worst thing in the sport. The component discrepancy is a much bigger deal in ice dance and women, which I'm going to talk about ice dance in a moment. In men, because the technical ceiling is so high, it's not as big of a deal. I'm going to stop talking about this now, but Ilya still deserved to win because of his technique and his improvements. He made improvements. Yes, he's still overscored. He will continue to be overscored. That's the nature of the sport. If you want to make a change, complaining on the internet and saying Ilya doesn't deserve anything and that he's a horrible skater is not going to fix anything, all right? Moving on. Ice dance. All right. I'm going to start on a high note. I am obsessed with Leah and Artem. I remember them. They were in junior last year. They're the reigning world junior champions, and I do remember watching them and enjoying them. Their free dance I am obsessed with. I've watched it 5 times. As soon as they got out, and there was a big difference between them and the skaters before them, which was Annabelle Morozov and Jeffrey Chen. The obvious change of speed, skating skills, edge quality, performance quality, everything, they are so strong. And yes, they're very new. Like, they've got a very long career ahead of them, and I could see them on top of podiums in, like, 5-10 years, right? They still need to work a little bit on the refinement of, like, being a senior. They still have those, like, junior qualities to them. However, they had the big lifts. They had the audience in their grasp. They have the performance value. They have the edges. They have the clean turns. They have the levels. They have the speed. Like, everything about them I'm obsessed with. I love her dress. I love her hair. I love their music. Like, their free dance was my favorite of the entire ice dance event. I'm obsessed with them. Like, I am now Leah and Artem's biggest fan. I'm gonna make myself a t-shirt that says Leah Nessa and Artem Markelov's biggest #1 fan. I'm gonna put a picture of them in my background just for y'all. They were the highlight of the ice dance event for me because I wasn't expecting to see how beautiful they were. And I do want to mention that the fact that Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin scored higher than them in the free dance is absolute highway robbery. I question that so much more than the men situation, okay? Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin. First of all, she's a Terry's daughter, okay? I'm not going to be a fan of theirs, right? Their free dance was boring and messy, and there were holds that were weird. There were lifts that looked bad. I just didn't like it at all. And the fact that it, like, did push them out of the top 3, that's completely correct. But the fact that they still scored, like, 4 points higher than Leah and Artem has me actually mad. Like, I had to pause it and, like, take a minute because I was so angry. And I'm bringing up all my emotions again. I'm making myself hot. I'm, like, getting sweaty. Is my face starting to get shiny? A little bit. Anyway, I'm almost done. I'm gonna take off my sweater. I'm literally getting so passionate about this that I'm, like, making myself hot. Okay, their free dance is messy. Their free dance had misholds. Their free dance had awkward lifts. And they still somehow managed to score 4 points higher. I'm not even going to talk about the discrepancy in skating skills because this is an issue in ice dance altogether, considering our top team here. But this was my biggest issue. Even though I didn't decide any medals, like, they came in 4th and 5th, the discrepancy of scoring in their free dances pissed me off because this ice dance is so corrupt. I'm sorry. Ice dance is the most corrupt. I don't care about the discussion of men because I understand that technical is going to get you higher than having strong components, and that being overscored in PCS in men is just not really going to affect you. In ice dance, it's so important because it's like the same. Your technical and your PCS is actually pretty much the same. It's like, I think the ceiling is 60, and then the technical score usually is around like 65 to 70 for strong competitors. This is the issue I have with the sport. The discrepancy in those free dance scores actually made me want to throw my TV out my window. The skating skills difference, the speed difference, the quality of the program, the packaging. This screams that the Canadian camp, the IM camp, there is something fishy going on. I'm sorry. There is something fishy going on. I'm going to call it out. I don't know if there's actual cheating happening and like payoffs being made to the judges, but there's something going on that to me smells fishy. Because Leah and Artem are not coached by them. Dinah Davis and Gleb Smolkin are. Okay? And also, she's Atari's daughter, which Atari also gets like a special bonus. But we don't have to deal with that as much right now because none of her big Russian girls are competing. So that was my biggest issue. Olivia Smart and Tim Deek getting the bronze was one of my highlights. I love them. She used to compete with Adrian Diaz. He retired. She's only been with Tim Deek for a couple of seasons. I've always loved her skating. Her skating skills are definitely the best of the top 3. I loved to see them move up from 5th to 3rd because I think they deserved it. Their free dance, while it is to Dune, I still enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it more than the top 2. And Davis and Smolkin and a lot of the other competitors, they deserved this bronze medal. They deserved higher than that, honestly. But, you know, again, ice dance is corrupt. You can only wish for so many things. Okay, so silver was the biggest surprise of all Skate America, and that is that Madison Chalk and Evan Bates got silver. I'm not super worried about it. I'm more worried about their consistency of making mistakes in free dances. Like, I can think of at least 4 times that they've fallen in competition in the last, 5 years, which sounds like, oh, that's not bad. In ice dance, that is. You shouldn't be falling. This one, it felt a little bit like it was just a new program and their blades got stuck together, and that just happens sometimes, especially when you're new to it, to the program, and your steps are still you're still working it out. They've always been skaters that kind of score lower at the beginning and they really settle into their programs. This was a much better start because honestly, when you think about it, they did lose out on 9.5 points because of that fall, and they only lost out by 0.5 point. So I'm not worried at all. I am mad that it allowed the worst possible, not worst. If Diana and Gleb won because of this, I would literally stop watching ice dance altogether. But the Brits, they don't have skating skills, unfortunately. Madison Chalk and Evan Bates are not the strongest edge work, strongest turns, right? But they still they get it. You know, I was watching their skates, and a fun thing to do when you're watching ice dance is look at how close their boot is to the ice when they're leaning on one side of their blade. The closer their boot is to the ice, the deeper the edge, and the better the skating skills are, right? And in ice dance, skating skills is everything. Literally everything you're getting scored on is because of your skating skills. So the idea that Lila Fear is winning Grand Prix with skating skills of a novice level skater is actually mind-boggling. Chalk and Bates, their programs are interesting. So their rhythm dance has gotten a lot of hate on the internet. They use 11 pieces of music. I think it's too busy, okay? But I don't hate it. They do well with it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. It's not my favorite thing on the planet, but I'm not absolutely despising it like so many people do. But I also don't despise them like so many people do, because I genuinely can say they've made so much improvement. And looking at like their turns, I really realized just how strong they've gotten. They are the full package. Their performance value is so good. Like the faces that she can make, she's an actress. She's gorgeous. And their refinement, their chemistry, like everything about them, like is smooth. Like their twizzles are smooth again. Yes, they fell. Okay. Like, yeah, they fell. And that's what cost them the gold here. But I think that, you know, if they hadn't have fallen, their rhythm dance would have been like 86, 87, which is a really strong start. Their free dance being 127 was a really strong start for them as well. I'm not worried at all. They're ready to win things. Their free dance I don't like, though. I don't like the jazz. I don't like skating to jazz. I think jazz is not designed to be skated to. There's no ebb and flow. There's no climax. It's just so boring to me. I know a lot of people like jazz, but I just don't think jazz belongs in figure skating programs, okay? Jazz belongs with the jazz people or in the background of dinner parties or at fancy restaurants. I think jazz is a special type of music, but it's not designed for creating excitement, creating a moment. And I don't like their free dance, okay? I prefer their rhythm dance, truly. Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson, they won because Maddie and Evan fell. Their rhythm dance is fine. Their free dance, at least they know how to work the crowd. Like the fact their second half of their free dance is exactly why they're as popular as they are. Is their performance value is very great. That's the only thing going for them, though. And the entire first half of the rhythm of the free dance is boring. The halo from Beyonce doesn't work for them. It only got interesting when they got to the fun dance part. I still don't understand why they are winning medals at all. If I could score this, I would have had Olivia and Tim first, Leah and Artem second, and Maddie and Evan third. And that's it for that. All right. So Skate America overall, lots of disappointments, lots of excitement. It's going to be an exciting season for sure. All right, we got about 5 minutes. We're going to talk about Skate Canada really quick. Starting with the women, we've got reigning world champion Kaori Sakamoto. I think she'll win. You know, she's had a slow start to her season with I think it was second at her senior B, but she's going to be fine. Elisa Lynn Gracie is back. I'm excited. And I hope she has lit a fire under her butt and is going to show up and prove that she is as good as Neville Horn Trophy was. We also have Alyssa Liu back. Very excited to see her. She could definitely end up on the podium as she puts out 2 clean programs. I just want her to continue this idea that she's skating for fun. She seems to really enjoy it now, and I'm excited to see her here. We also have Hana Yoshida. Love her. Excited to see what she's going to do. Yelin Kim has won a world silver medal before. Excited to see her. She's very inconsistent, though. Seong Wee as well. Inconsistent, but potentially she could end up on the podium. I'm also excited to see Madeline Skizis. We'll see if she if she skates clean, she's going to get a huge bump because it's Skate Canada, and Skate Canada does not try to hide the fact that they bump their skaters at this event. So looking forward to it. I'm very excited to see what happens because I think a lot of things could happen in this event, just like it did at Skate America. Moving on to the pairs, we have our reigning world champions here as well, Deanna Stellato-Dudek and Maxim Deschamps. There's no one here that's going to challenge them, especially with the Canadian bonus that they have. They're going to win, barring disaster. I'm excited to see Emily Chan and Spencer Akira Howe. I want to see how they're handling the fact that, you know, Ellie and Danny are starting to come into their own. I think it was obvious they were going to kind of take on the role of number one in the U.S. when Alexa and Brandon left. But they've been struggling. They missed the Grand Prix last season because of his shoulder surgery. I'm excited to see what programs they came up with and what they're going to do here. There's no one else that I'm really that interested in, so we're going to see. Oh, the Germans. The Germans will probably be on the podium. I enjoy Annika Hawk and Robert Kunkel. I'm excited to see what they do. The rest, it's just, I don't even recognize these names. So, gonna be an interesting competition. I think Deanna and Maxim will win easy. The rest kind of will be whatever it bees. The ice dance. Also, we have Piper Gills and Paul Poirier. They are going to win no matter what, unless they fall like Maddie and Evan did. But even then, I think Canada will fluff them up so much they will still win. I'm also excited to see the baby Canadians, Marjorie and Zachary. I think they are potentially going to be your top ice dance team once all the current names start to retire. They are so fast. They are so smooth. I love them too. Like, they are so good. We also have for the U.S., we have Emily Brody and Ian Somerville, which, will they get over the disappointment of missing the free dance in Worlds? I'm sure they're going to be just fine. I think he fell at Worlds, so like that was kind of a fluke. Una Brown and Gage Brown, and then a personal favorite of mine, Emilia Zingas and Vadim Kolesnik. I love them as well. There's so many teams that I love in ice dance that I want to see succeed. It's just hard to watch ice dance because I know they're not going to until those top names start to really retire and stuff. So this will be an interesting event. I can really say Piper and Paul are going to win. Probably Marjorie and Zachary will get silver. The rest is really up for grabs. So it'll be interesting to see. Finally, the men. Oh, Ilya's competing again. I didn't realize Ilya was doing back-to-back. So Ilya will probably win. I think going off of this list, there's 5 names that are in the conversation, and then the rest I think will just be outside the top 5, but I could be wrong, as we saw with Skate America. But we have Ilya Malinin and Jason Brown. Definite, like, Ilya, probably the easy win. Junhwa Cha, Sota Yamamoto, and Shun Sato. Now, I think this is the top 5, barring disaster. I don't really see anyone else really challenging that. So unless one of the Canadians skates lights out, they're going to get that fluff, right? I think Ilya, Junhwa, and Jason will probably be the podium in some order, but Sota Yamamoto and Shun Sato both can definitely get on there. It all depends on who's going to skate clean, because Shun, Sota, and Junhwa are all kind of known for not necessarily skating clean, so I'm not sure what they're gonna do there, but it'll be an interesting event. Skate Canada is gonna be interesting. I'm not making any full deep dive predictions because that really messed me up this past weekend. So that is it for today's episode, though. I will see you all after Skate Canada. Thank you so much for listening in or watching. If you liked this, don't forget to, if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. And then if you're listening to this on any podcast platform, don't forget to download the podcast and give me a rating on what you think of the podcast. You can also follow me on socials. I am at Hannah Skates 96. That's HANA Skates 96 on X. And then if you want to see my cosplay stuff, I'm looking nerdy on Instagram, but we'll see if I create one for the skating. With that, thank you so much for listening in or watching, and bye!